In my last video, we talked about the H-1B lottery and what might happen after the first round of the lottery is completed. If you weren't selected, potentially there might be a second or third round. And we also talked about some alternative visas that you might be able to apply for. Today, what I want to do is talk about a real-world example of a company that wanted to file the H-1B for one of its employees and wasn't successful the first couple times around, and what we did in order to pivot and get them situated in a different visa category, the L-1A. My name is Rahim Dhanani. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney. I've been helping companies bring key personnel to the U.S. for more than 25 years. So in our story, we have a multinational company who is a client, and they, between their U.S. and their overseas operation, have maybe 250 employees, and they had a senior level manager who just had a lot of knowledge about the engineering processes that they were delivering for their clients, and he was sitting overseas and trying to direct a lot of the US operation from overseas, but it was just becoming too difficult because of time zone differences, and actually he probably needed to be interacting with the customers on a more one-on-one personal basis. So it was really crucial for this company, in order to grow their US operation, that they bring over this engineering manager to the US so that he could help them implement various procedures and really get the business moving off the ground even more than it had already moved. And so they were pretty keen on getting this guy over to the US. So again, our challenge with this was they tried the H-1B lottery twice before. The first time, he had been an employee there for less than a year. We eventually moved to an L-1A visa, but because he'd only been working for the company for less than a year, he didn't qualify initially when we did the first round of the H-1B. So we tried the H-1B round again, and this time when we didn't get through, the executives at the US operation said, let's just go ahead with the L-1A at this point because we really can't wait any longer. We really need this guy in the US as soon as we can. So what we decided to do is we filed an L-1A visa for this particular employee. We did it under the premium processing program. We included things like financials for the US operation and the overseas operation, organizational charts that laid out where this employee fit within the chart in the overseas operation and where he would fit in the US operation. We showed that he was a higher level manager who was directing subordinate managers who in turn were directing lower level people within the company. One of the sticking points for this application was that both the overseas and the US operation were acquired by another company. So that company was the parent company. And then we had to show that the parent company owned both of the other two companies and that the US and the overseas operation were either affiliated or subsidiaries of the parent. And there's specific definitions within the immigration regulations on what's considered a parent, a branch, a subsidiary, or an affiliate. So we had to make sure that we were able to correctly define the relationship between the various companies involved as well. And that became a sticking point just because it was a recent acquisition and we had to get a lot of the corporate documents like stock certificates and stock ledgers to show what the relationship was between all of the companies involved. And there had been some shares that had been sold, and it was just a really back and forth process for quite a while until we got it all sorted out. So luckily, in our case, we were able to provide all the documents that were needed for this L-1A application. And again, we filed it premium processing, and we were fortunate. The immigration officer was satisfied with the documents that we provided, and the whole application got approved without a request for evidence. So within about 15 business days, we had an approval notice. One of the takeaways, or several takeaways that you could get from this story, is that timing is important, strategizing is important, and documenting your case is also really important in order to get these cases approved. And if you do all of those things and put in the work to make the application approvable, then there is potentially another solution rather than relying on the H-1B lottery and putting things up to chance. With immigration, there's always some chance involved, but you can reduce the risks of the case getting denied when you plan for it properly. I hope that's helpful, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.